On August 17, 1943, Colonel Curtis LeMay commanded the 3rd Bombardment Wing on a raid on a Messerschmitt factory in Regensburg. All 6 of the main workshops were destroyed or severely damaged, but was the raid all that successful? This mission was one of the most complex operations of the US 8th Air Force. It would challenge their tactics and expose the vulnerability of their assumptions. This moment in history is called Mission 84. By the summer of 1943, the US Air Force needed to demonstrate the effectiveness of the Norden bomb sight, a device reputed to drop a bomb into a pickle barrel from 30,000 feet. Unfortunately, the device had thus far failed to prove the US strategy of precision bombing, so they came up with a plan to cripple the German war machine by destroying a series of ball-bearing factories in Schweinfurt, deep in German territory. The plan was a double strike. The first wave would hit the Messerschmitt aircraft factories in Regensburg, then continue over the Alps to land in French Algeria. This raid was a decoy in order to draw German defenders away. After the first wave, the second wave would strike the real target, the ball-bearing plants in Schweinfurt, and then return to England. The assumption was that splitting German defences would ensure success for both raids. On the morning of the raid, fate had other plans. England was covered with heavy fog and rain, but Colonel LeMay, leader of the Regensburg Raid, anticipated the terrible weather, and he trained his men on blind takeoffs day after day in the weeks prior to the raid. Thus, the raid on Regensburg unfolded as planned, drawing the Luftwaffe's fierce response. Meanwhile, the second wave was planned to take off 10 minutes later, but they were not prepared for the weather and were delayed 5 hours. This delay sealed their fate and gave the Germans time to regroup and refuel to attack the second wave of bombers. The meticulously timed 1-2 punch designed to outwit German defences had been completely broken. The 230 bombers in the second wave met with 300 German fighters along their route, and even before reaching the target, they lost 22 bombers just from the lead wing alone. 15 miles from Schweinfurt, the German fighters disengaged to refuel and rearm, but now the bombers faced a fierce anti-aircraft flak barrage and lost 3 more bombers. Once they reached the factories of Schweinfurt, the remaining 183 bombers dropped 424 tons of bombs. While the growing smoke made seeing the targets difficult, the Norden bomb sight once more failed to live up to expectations in the chaos of battle. Of the approximately 2,000 bombs dropped, only 80 scored hits on the factories. After dropping their bombs, the second wave regrouped and began their journey home. But by now, the German fighters renewed their attacks and harried the bombers all the way to the North Sea before Allied fighters arrived to provide protection. The aftermath was grim. The delay, the weather, the lack of fighter support, and the overestimated effectiveness of the Norden bomb sight culminated in a devastating blow to the US air crews. Of the 376 bombers involved in both raids, over 60 bombers were lost, more than double that of any mission up to then. A similar number of aircraft were badly damaged, some so much so that they never flew again. In the Army's official post-mortem of the mission, they concluded that there is no evidence that the attacks on the ball-bearing industry had any measurable effect on essential war production. Shaken by the losses and a dip in confidence, it was 3 months before the Americans attempted the raid on the ball-bearing factories again, and the results of the second raid were just as disappointing as the first. Neither did much towards ending the war. Albert Speer, Hitler's Minister of Armaments and War Production, had this to say about the mission in his memoir. The Allies threw away success when it was already in their hands. Had they continued the attacks with the same energy, we would quickly have been at our last gasp. Mission 84 stands as a stark reminder of the uncertainties of war. It taught valuable lessons such as the importance of fighter escorts, the limits of strategic bombing and precision bombing, and the psychological impact on the bomber crews. Today, we honor their bravery and the hard lessons they taught us, which would ultimately contribute to the Allies' victory in the air war over Europe. Thank you for watching this moment in history. If you liked this episode, please like and subscribe.